and Secret Invasion. This is following on the heels of Secret Invasion. Literally the Kree-Skrull peace accord kind of thing that Nick Fury is off to take care of at the end of Secret Invasion. It's there, but it's incidental, and they're just like, these peace talks are very important. Meanwhile, wackiness! I can't hear you, so if you're talking, I'm just looking at this. Shut up, go away, I'm looking at stuff. Yeah, this was the original hardcover, like the first time it came out in hardcover. Sorry for the shine. And I went to a convention. To Brendan, best wishes, Alex Ross.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I forgot it folds out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Keeps going.
Oh, wow, cool.
Going. The thing I love about
the recreation of the actual original covers.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, he's such a kid of our generation that his version of Doctor Doom is basically Clytus from the Flash Gordon movie.
Oh.
But you know, made to look a little bit more like Doom. His version of, well, I mean, he's the reason Patrick Stewart was Professor X. I mean, this came before the first, you know, X-Men movie.
Yeah.
And he was using Patrick Stewart as his Professor X in the illustrations. His Doctor Strange is Frank Zappa. That's awesome. Yeah, it's just so clear that he was casting them in his head and like going, all right, this guy will be this guy will be this.
It's been so long since I've read those. I think it was you who brought them to my attention when they were first coming out.
Such a great concept too.
And I bought all the original issues, and I just don't know where they are.
I don't have any single issue comics anymore. I just have trades and hardcovers.
Well, the joy of this was me discovering, because it's been so long since I've looked through my comics collection. These are mostly things I bought in the early 80s. And then for a brief time when you and I were hanging out in the early 90s. Yeah. But some of these, I don't know when I bought them. Like this was in a paper bag. I got The Thing and the Human Torch 2-in-1.
Wow.
From
that's got to be 80s,
1989.
Right?
Yeah. 89.
Yeah.
And Life with Archie.
Wow.
I don't know why.
But that's not from the 80s. So that seems like that's a.
This is it doesn't say. November doesn't say the year.
It looks to be of an older vintage. Maybe this was just like a grab bag.
Maybe. And I've got Spider-Man fighting the Condor.
Love it. The Vulture.
The Vulture. Oh, sorry.
The Condor.
I've got Condor Man on my brain. So.
Oh, thank God this isn't recording.
It is, but there's
an edit. Shit. Yeah, no, it's up to you.
That one.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember that 80s stuff.
Peter Parker goes wild.
He does. Your Marvel Tales, right? The one before. No, the one before. Oh, the Condor.
Vulture. Yeah.
Yeah, the Vulture. Marvel. That's a reprint book. You were actually. Those are all like Steve Ditko 1960s. Like that's the first Vulture story.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Marvel Tales was a reprint book, so they would.
It says 1982.
Yep, but it's reprint of the old 60s stories.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I probably did buy this when I was in
just like the
high.
one behind you, the Marvel Tales with Dr. Doom, because I kept looking at it going, well, that's definitely Ditko Spider-Man. So that is an 80s reprint of the 60s stuff.
Yeah, these are probably ones I bought on the way home from junior high.
Yeah.
At Stop and Go or whatever.
I love the Incredible Hulk one that's like as seen on TV. Is that what that is?
Yeah, Marvel's TV sensation.
Yeah, it's great.
Let me bring that closer.
Yeah, ain't no Bixby there.
Nope.
Oh, that's great. We all remember the time that the Hulk stamped down on Mount Rushmore, don't we?
Rushmore. They look so sad. The faces of the presidents are like, why are we being subjected to this?
Why is the Green Man jumping on us? This is our fate.
Yeah.
You were lucky, Abe. They shot you. No, sorry. That's a... What is that from?
Wait,
oh, I know what that's from. That was from the classic Saturday Night Live skit, which was Dan Aykroyd. This is first cast as Richard Nixon, and he's having his crisis moment, and it's just like a monologue, and he's in the Oval Office and he looks at a portrait of Abe Lincoln and he goes, "You're lucky, Abe. They shot you." Oh, it took me back.
I just got back literally minutes ago from seeing the Marvels.
Yeah.
At my local movie theater.
I'm anxious to hear what you thought.
I was texting Brendan at the end. It was like, give me a few extra minutes. I'm still sitting through the credits. Because I was waiting. I didn't want to say anything. I was like, where are you in the credits? Yeah, well, I was looking up on my phone, like, how many post-credit scenes are there? Or pre-credit, mid-credit? And I said, oh, there's 2. And I said, oh, good, because I'd already seen the mid-credit one. So I sat there. And there was nothing. I was like, you motherfuckers.
Yeah. No, they lied to you. They lied to you so hard.
We'll save spoilers for a little bit later in the episode for this movie, just for the sake, because I know a lot of people are not seeing this movie, and they should. We will
talk about the button scene, and so that will be spoiler alert when we get there. We have to talk about it.
But I'd like to say I quite enjoyed it. I'm not sure, again, what people's problems with it were. Like, they seem to be expecting something completely different.
Well, I will say this. I really enjoyed it too. At the same time, it's not what I expected, nor quite what I wanted. But I don't think people are just so ready. And John he gets fervent about this too. But it's like people are so ready to jump on Marvel and just go, it's done. Yeah,
it's over. Idiots. Whatever.
It's over. They don't know what they're doing anymore. And I'm like,
but the tangent, well, obviously we're going to get deep into this whole thing. The tangent I was going to mention was the trailers that ran before this, 2 of which kind of surprised me. One I wasn't surprised to see, but I was surprised at how good it was Aquaman. The other one I knew nothing about was the new Ghostbusters movie, which is, I guess, next year.
Yeah, I was like, and
it actually looks kind of good.
It's funny that you brought that up because simply because I don't know when Afterlife came out. It was during the pandemic or right before the pandemic.
Something like that. Yeah, it's all blurry to me now.
Yeah, it's blurry to me too. But I had a perfectly valid but sad reason that I didn't see it in the theaters. I literally just saw it the other night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I signed up for a 7-day trial just so I could watch Ghostbusters Afterlife. And I enjoyed it. Except, I was like, oh, it's leaning so hard on the old story and do something new with it.
Yeah, it had a lot of promise. The whole concept of this legacy being rediscovered.
I liked the family, and you can't go wrong with Carrie Coon, who is a goddess who walks among us. It's about time we all realize how awesome Carrie Coon. That's a hot take. Anyway, so you got her, you got Finn Wolfhard, who again, he's our boy. We've watched him grow up from an itty bitty guy, and he's a good teen actor. Good. The girl who I don't even know.
She's fantastic. Yeah.
She's fantastic. And the way she would deliver the deadpan, not funny jokes where I'm going, oh yeah, that's great. It'd be easy for her to be a nerd, but her being I am on the spectrum type of nerd. I was like, you're good. So I liked all the new people. Paul Rudd, even though it is Paul Rudd doing Paul Rudd, he's a good fit for it. I was like, oh, that's great.
Right.
So I had no problems with any of that. It was slightly longish, and it was slightly not as funny. And then the guys who I loved seeing, but they just show up at the very end. I'm like,
yeah, that's the thing. There seemed to be a little bit of studio. Can we put this in here? Can you please put the Stay Puft Marshmallow? It has nothing to do with the story. Oh, just put it in one scene.
Yeah.
God damn it. It had
it's like the whole reason. What are you doing? It's like, dude, you realize that the only reason that worked is in that first story is that Ray accidentally pictured that. And so, but it doesn't mean that Gozer, every time Gozer the Gozerian will enter our dimension, it's going to take the form of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It just won't.
It's just, that made no sense.
That's lazy.
If Ray had been in the vicinity, that would have made sense, and then he could have walked up and seen him and go, "Oh, not again." That would have been great.
Something like that, absolutely.
They saved all that. They show up all in a row. It seemed very neat. They shot it, and separately from the other actors. They weren't even on the set together. Yeah. I will say when the way that they CGI'd Ivan,
Harold Ramis,
or Harold, sorry, Ivan, Igor, or what's his name?
Egon Spengler.
Egon, sorry. the way that they put him in CGI or deep fake, whatever it was,
really well.
It was really good.
And you know, silent, but that's, you know, that's a ghost thing. Yeah. Sure, it's a ghost thing, but the expression's really well done, and I'm sure they worked hard. Like, here he has to look wistful, here he has to look apologetic, and it did. It worked really well. I was surprised. I was like, I thought it would be, because they kept kind of disguising, and you see there's an actor stand-in at the point where he's still alive at the very beginning and all that, and you're like, okay, that's fine, we're not going to see him, and that's probably for the best. And then at the end I was like, wow, you're getting a lot of them. Yeah And it's working It's
working pretty good. You know, and they definitely, you know, there was a lot of retreading ground that seemed unnecessary. I did like the whole idea of, oh, we're not done with Gozer yet. You know, we got to, you know, there's still more. That was kind of cool.
I thought that the tying in with, I mean, with the crazy architect who built the building, the Gozer worshiper guy.
We actually get to see him,
who we finally get to see him. I thought, oh, that's a good reason why we're out in the Midwest or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, yes, he was mining selenium, which they actually brought up in the first movie. I'm like, okay, I can go with this. You know, it's like, and the new setting is one of the better things about it. I'm like, oh, that's great. But then it becomes, you know, rehashy. I'm like, don't.
There was one motivation that they tried in the story. This was the way the whole movie kind of teetered a little bit for me, because I didn't quite get this thing that they had where the other Ghostbusters had said that Egon was losing his mind. Like, oh, you're crazy, you know. Why would they not believe him after all the shit that they've been through together? I think
that's literally just story logic. And actually, if you looked at those characters, and had it not been Harold Ramis's death that made it be Egon, Ray would have been the guy who lost his mind. Ray is the real hardcore, like, arcanist, magic thinker guy who'd lose his mind, whereas Egon was the scientist. He probably wouldn't be the guy who goes out there, but it just, Harold Ramis's death forced that hand. Story-wise, it would make more sense to have been Ray.
Yeah.
And yes, also, it did force them to do the we've split up thing.
Yeah.
Also, it seems weird that any talk of ghosts would be like, what?
Yeah.
Especially after 1984, where the ghosts were taking over New York and a god showed up, and those, I did like, it was like going, you don't know about the New York incident or whatever, and they're like going on YouTube. I'm like, I guess that makes sense. These four guys, I'm like, wouldn't they all be enshrined? I mean, they didn't deserve it. They're all nerds, but look, they saved the world.
Yeah, there was some line about there were some reports that it was like a Thanksgiving Day parade balloon gone rogue or something,
or some sort of mass hallucination event. I think they even put that in the original movie or the second one. Oh, let's not talk about Ghostbusters 2. But anyway, so yes, I enjoyed it greatly. You saw the trailer for the new one, and it looks good because they're moving past.
Yes,
moving past is good.
Yeah, doing something new. That's
doing something new. It's like, great.
Yeah.
And I think it's in New York. So
because like, that was the other thing they patched into the film, which I don't think was supposed to be there originally, was that post-credit scene where Ernie Hudson's character goes and starts restoring the old fire station office that they used to have, which it didn't even match up with things they'd said earlier in the film, like it had been turned into a Starbucks or something. I can't remember what it was. There was some other storyline for it. It's like, oh no, actually it's still here. Like, what?
Then
okay.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
Read your own script. Anyway. I can't be in charge of doing that for you, Mr. Reitman. Anyway, I thought he did a fine job.
Yeah.
So you saw the Marvels.
Saw the Marvels.
And you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
John and I saw it together opening day. We held hands.
Really?
This is gonna be this is gonna be the best. But as usual, we usually go out and eat after one of these Marvel movies and then just pick it apart, but in a loving way. The main problems for me was I liked it as a movie just fine, and it is floating on the charm of all three of those actresses and all the supporting cast too, because I love Kamala's family. I love them in the series. I love them in this too. Great. So in other words, it floats on that charm, but it's not what I expected as a follow-up to things like Captain Marvel itself, which was fun-ish, but still had some darkness to it, and Secret Invasion. This is following on the heels of Secret Invasion, and literally the Kree-Skrull peace accord kind of thing that Nick Fury is off to take care of at the end of Secret Invasion is kind of just sort of like, it's there, but it's incidental, and they're just like, these peace talks are very important. Meanwhile, wackiness! I didn't think the villain was very well developed, even though I liked the actress, and I think Tom Hiddleston likes her too. I think he likes her a lot. That's his wife or partner. The woman who plays, I can't even remember her name. Davra, something like that.
I just saw the movie. I have no idea.
Well, I mean, they say her name a few times. She is made up for the movie, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You can create new villains, but she was given as much development as Malekith in Thor Dark World, which is a problem when your villain is basically 2D and has no shadings or real backstory, no matter how good. Because that was Christopher Eccleston, and he's a good actor, but they gave him nothing to do. And in this one, same story. I think she's fascinating looking, and she's got her point of like, you're the Annihilator, you ruined our planet, I'm gonna get you. So I was slightly disappointed with that. I was expecting Kamala to be Kamala. I knew that she would be the light. I knew that she would be the fun, because she's bright-eyed and she's the newbie. I didn't expect the movie to warp the entire reality kind of into that shape, because I thought Carol Danvers can certainly learn from Kamala, and Monica's got her own stuff to work out, but I thought they would keep the weight and let Kamala be this like pick-me-up. Instead, the entire movie goes wacky. We've got a lot of flirkins, and we've got the Bollywood singing alien culture and all that. I'm like, not that I hated any of that. I was just like, it's similar to my reaction. Sorry, I'm just going off. Similar to my reaction to Thor Ragnarok, which everybody worships Thor Ragnarok. And I kept going, that was entertaining, but it wasn't what I wanted.
Right.
Because it was a lot of fun, but in that movie, you're dealing with the destruction of Asgard. You're dealing with the exposure of Odin's hidden child, Hela. And these are not light things. And yet they were like, but it's also this buddy comedy. Thor and the Hulk are hanging out. It's wacky. And I'm like, can we give some weight to some of this? They introduced the Executioner. Carl Urban played him, and I love the Executioner in the comics. He shows up. He's the butt of a couple of jokes. He has a heroic death. End of character. And you're like, well, thanks. Oh, and also they killed off the Warriors 3 with like, boop, boop, done. I was like, what the hell is it? No, actually, that was it Thanos who killed them all? I don't know. They went out like punks. So, anyway, when they go light, I'm not opposed to Marvel going light, because it's a fun ride, and I did enjoy it. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe not so suiting of the subject matter and the characters. Maybe they were feeling the pushback from the first Captain Marvel movie, where they're going, she comes across as too harsh.
Yeah. And that's
I'm okay
one thing
with that too, though.
I was thinking about this on the way when I was driving back from the movie, that the one, there's plenty of criticisms I could level against it. I didn't go in with any expectations really, except I wanted to enjoy it, and I'd heard the criticism, so I was expecting something cringy. I didn't really find it cringy.
No, I didn't find it cringy at all.
So, but the one thing I will say is that the character, Brie Larson's character, is kind of meant to have this emotional arc in the film. Yeah. And it didn't, I don't really feel like I felt it. Yeah. When it happened, when she has that scene where she was on the verge of tears and she's trying to explain, her motivations and stuff. It was like, it just felt like it was forced in that moment. I'm not buying this right now.
Well, what a lot of people have said, and I do agree to some degree, is that they rushed everything really just to get to where they wanted to go, but it doesn't feel organic. Yeah. What people are saying, and I agree, is there should have been a Captain Marvel 2, and then this should have been the third one.
Yeah, yeah.
Captain Marvel 2 should have bridged it and should have, you know, maybe had some interaction. Actually, Captain Marvel 2 should have been the Monica Carol story, and the Marvels should have been Kamala joining them, and so they would have already kind of worked out their thing.
Yeah.
It would just feel more organic, because I agree, they don't earn where they get to in that movie in the Marvels just because they're like, oh, what time is it? All right, they've now had their emotional. So in other words, it's just like, connect the dots.
Yeah, because that's really what the movie's about, is the two of them kind of reconciling. I think that's seems to be the main important thing, and also getting transported. Well, that's I'm not going to get into spoilers yet for that one yet. Sorry.
No, not yet.
The button scene later.
Yeah. No, it's true that, and some people are upset with that, which we'll talk about too. And I'm like, really? But they were also like, is this how they choose to do this? It seems like they should have done something more momentous. And I'm like, get over it. But we'll talk about that in a second. The movie I enjoyed. The cameo from Valkyrie. I mean, I'm not spoiling anything. We're talking about the movie. What the? That was fine.
Marvel's basically spoiled the movie anyway.
The resurrection of Hala, the planet of the Kree, you know, that's good. That is almost a little bit stolen, that storyline-ish from DC, when Hal Jordan went evil and became Parallax in the 90s. Killed a bunch of people, went crazy. He destroyed the Green Lantern Corps. And then his redemption arc was during a storyline called Final Night, when our son was dying because of a sun eater. And Hal Jordan has woken up from being crazy Parallax and's like, I can set this right. And he goes and repowers our son, also in the instance dying. So he sacrifices himself. Don't worry, he came back. And also, don't worry, some very good writer, Jeff Johns, came in and said, oh, I can fix that whole Parallax, him going crazy and killing people thing, to where it wasn't his fault. Thank you very much, Jeff Johns. Anyway, so it was a little bit similar, but I liked that. That was good. Carol, like, I owe it to these people, and I thought I was doing good, and I just didn't consider the consequences. When they go cosmic in the Marvel movies, very often they're going wacky, and that's the thing that is bugging me.
Yeah.
Like that Guardians, it deserves all the success and praise. The entire trilogy is great. I love the Guardians movies, but it seems like that was almost like Feige and company going, so anytime we go into space and we're dealing with the big cosmic entities, as long as they're not Thanos, we should go wacky. Yeah. I mean, the scene in Love and Thunder. Did you see Love and Thunder? The big meeting of the gods.
That was
it was wacky, but I'm like,
that was horrible.
Yeah, I'm like, that undercuts.
Yeah.
Pantheons.
I didn't really think there was anything in this movie that was that degree of
no
too much. You know,
no.
It was. I liked. It was very much Guardians of the Galaxy, the whole scene on the space station with the Flurgans.
Yes.
We're getting spoilers now, people. So stop watching if you haven't seen the movie, or if you care. But the whole line, I kind of want it on a t-shirt. I'm sure somebody will do it. It's like, please stop running and let the Flurgan eat you.
Yeah.
I love that. And nobody's having like, fuck this.
Yeah. I'm not even sure if she was named, but one of the two official people, because it's not Sword. What is it? Scepter? What is
Sword?
No, it's not Sword. They actually say what their anagram is.
Oh, Saber.
That's it. Saber. Right.
Yeah.
In the comics, there is a sword and shield, obviously.
Right.
But only the woman, when she's like prepared for it, she runs and she kind of stops. She's like, okay. Yeah. She's like, go ahead, do it. And then she gets sucked in. So I mean, the wackiness, there were moments where it was wacky, but it was so surreal that I'm like, yeah, that's sci-fi and I can go with it. And that is both a good solve for their problem, as in that's good writing. And also, that segment, they knew that was going to kill. It's like little kittens and they're running around and absorbing people with tentacles. It's great.
And
then it's like, are you saying that we literally have to herd cats? It's like, okay, yeah. So
and the singing planet, I heard complaints about that before I went in. Like, God, when they stopped singing, I was so relieved. And we got to that point in the movie, and it's like less than 2 minutes.
Oh yeah, it's not huge.
So like, it's not even that. I mean,
and then they let the prince talk. I liked the bit about. Well, I thought you said they couldn't. He's like, he's bilingual,
right?
I mean, it's all cute, and that was okay. Then all the stuff with the powers, all the stuff with the power swapping was great. And anytime, especially since we've been exposed, that sounds gross, to Kamala Khan's powers, so we know how they work. Carol's awesome. We know what she can do. But every time, they never called her Photon. That was the running gag, was that they were like,
I kept waiting
you
for
need a name. And her action figures and everything say Photon. So, like, the merchandise is calling her that, even if the movie didn't. But Monica, anytime they would let her do the stuff that only she can do, I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. All the sort of, like, ghosting through stuff. And her rescue of Kamala, the midair rescue scene, was great.
Yeah.
I mean, there are moments throughout if it's not a Marvel movie, if they botch all the action stuff. And I thought they were pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's good. That's good. That's great right there. But yeah, I think this is mid to lower level. But mid to lower level MCU is still more enjoyable. Did you ever see Blue Beetle? Have you still not seen it yet?
I have not seen it yet.
That's okay. I would say Blue Beetle was one of the first of the DC movies that I think is actually better than this, but I still enjoyed this quite a bit.
So, speaking of which, have you seen the trailer for Aquaman?
Yes.
I rather thought it looks kind of good.
It's no.
God damn it.
I mean, it looks like it's okay, but it's Dead Man Walking. I don't think that makes it inconsequential. I will still watch it. But the fact that it's literally non-important, that sounds terrible. And I will say that this will, if we get another Aquaman, and it could be years and years according to James Gunn's plan, I wouldn't mind if they made him a slightly more serious character and not a Jason Momoa, who I like a lot. But still, it's like, he's just never been Aquaman to me. He's a bro. Even in that trailer, he's like going, ha, yeah, ha. And I'm like, yeah, you definitely are a superhero character, but you're just not that one. I love how in the trailer you see Mira for 1 second. They are not on the board with Amber Heard.
And you'll have to bring me up to speed on the lore. Who is his brother or somebody he breaks out of prison?
Yeah. Well, did you see the first movie?
No.
Oh, I recommend it. I mean, it's one of the better DC movies.
So it's
James
Night
Wan directs the heck out of it. He's Ocean Master.
Yes.
And it is his half brother, Orm. And
is that from the comics?
Yeah. Orm? And in the first movie, they actually had him wearing the helmet. I mean, it's clear they're not going to dress him up in Ocean Master gear in this movie, but at least in the first one, they're like going, "Hey fans, you want him to have that fish helmet? Look, there you go." Yeah. And you get Black Manta looking exactly like he does in the comics, which is great.
Super Friends. Yeah.
And Super Friends. And that guy's great. That guy's great. He brings all the gravitas as Black Manta.
What I found interesting in the trailer, the character of Orm, I forget the actor's name. He was
Patrick
also
Wilson.
Night Owl.
Yeah.
Yes. Night Owl and the Watchmen.
And he was great in Watchmen.
I found it interesting that in this trailer, he looks like Aquaman like is supposed to look.
I know. In the first movie, he's kind of brunette, which is, I think, the guy's natural hair color. And in the comics, he has black hair. Yeah. And in this one, he's blonde. I'm like,
that has to be deliberate, right?
I guess
that they're winking at
I suppose
people like us.
What's funny is that they did screw up his origin for the movie. Is that he? I think in the comics, he's his half brother via the human, his human father. So Ocean Master was jealous of his half brother who is like Atlantean. So, but in the comics, I think Ocean Master is not Atlantean. And in the movie, they decided he was his half brother who is Atlantean and is in fact sitting on the throne of Atlantis when Arthur shows up. So I was like, the whole idea in the comics is I'm jealous, so I'm going to be Ocean Master. Can you breathe underwater? I will. Just you wait. And in this one, it's sort of like, no, I'm the responsible, power hungry authoritarian king, and you show up and you're all a bro, but you are destined for the throne. Anyway, so yeah, the trailer did look pretty good. The thing I know they won't do, the trailer, they show the kid, Arthur Jr. He and Mira have a kid. They did in the comics. And I'm sitting there going, you got Arthur Jr., little baby. You got Black Manta. Will they have the balls to have Black Manta kill the kid? Because he did in the comics. That wasn't even in the like 90s when things were getting dark. That was actually late 70s, early 80s. It was one of the first heavy storylines that Black Manta ends up killing Arthur Jr. And so Mira's, of course, torn up, and then Aquaman's like, I will kill you, Black Manta. I'm coming for you.
Well,
anyway, I doubt that this wacky, colorful superhero movie will have a child death in it. But in the comics, they did go there. We'll see.
That'd be funny if that's like not funny, but if that's the
last. That would be hilarious.
The last thing that happens in the DCEUs.
Yeah, it's like that was how they cap it. Is anyone uncomfortable
thanks, everybody.
With this? Yeah, thanks. Thanks, everybody. It's been fun. We'll see ya. Until someone decides that they're bringing back Zack Snyder.
Okay, anyway. So now that we've gotten past that,
yes,
let's dip back into the button scene.
Yeah, spoiler alert. We're going to talk about the Marvels mid-credit button scene, which is going to... and we also, by the way... well, it's not a spoiler, but we need to talk about Loki Season 2.
Oh, yes, we do.
Which actually I found...
Our patron supporters demand it.
Actually. Yeah, I think that had much more of a punch, to tell you the truth, than the Marvels, but it had, of course, heavier stakes, you could argue. But anyway,
and really good writing, yeah.
And really good writing, and just a wowzer of an ending that satisfied all my Loki needs. Anyway. I gave up on DoorDash and Grubhub and all these. They never satisfied my Loki needs. Anyway, so yes, the mid-credit scene, spoiler alert, has Monica Rambeau, who does the sacrificing here. And I do think that Marvel has gone to that well too many times, by the way, where it's
sacrifice
like... Well, sacrifice is normal in superheroics, but in the Avengers, Tony has to go into a dimensional gap. He does make it out, but he's like, I'm sacrificing myself. He goes into another dimension. I might be gone forever. Bye. He comes back. Then in Quantumania, you go ahead. Looks like I'm going to be stuck here in the quantum realm, but you guys go ahead. I'm going to keep the door open or blah, 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 so you guys can go. And of course, he makes it out too. Yeah. And in this one, I mean, finally someone did get stuck somewhere, but I'm like, you can't constantly have people going like, it's another dimension. I'm going to be gone forever. But, in this case, Monica Rambeau closes the dimensional gap between two realities in the multiverse by patching it up with her cool light powers. It's all jibber jabber. It's all comic book jibber jabber. If there's anyone out there going scientifically, I'm like, fuck you.
There's no science. Yeah.
There's no science here. And she wakes up in a hospital room, and when she's in that bed waking up, John's like, what's that? And I like leaned over. It's like, it's not going to be who you think it's going to be. Because I was sitting there going like, I think they're going to try and convince me this is going to be like how they're introducing the Fantastic Four.
Oh,
I actually thought that it would be, since they haven't cast or they have, but it hasn't been announced. I thought that they were going to do a thing where someone said, someone go get Dr. Richard. She's awake. Because I was thinking like, oh, yeah. This is how they're doing it. But no, I was totally surprised. Instead, we hear a familiar voice singing, "Oh, baby, I hear the blues are calling, tossed salads and scrambled eggs. Oh, my." And you're like, Fraser Crane? She is in a dimension, and we can't say which one. Is it the Fox X-Men dimension? I mean, he looks different.
Yeah,
but ish. The design of Beast is different. Basically, her doctor is Hank McCoy, aka the X-Men's Beast, and he's full CG. Version.
Yeah, he's full CG now. Yeah,
he's full CG. He does
look different.
He does look different, and well, also I should say that she wakes up and sees her mother, Maria Rambeau,
who apparently is
binary.
That's the name of her character.
Yeah, so this can't be the same dimension from Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which had her mother being Captain Marvel in that universe.
Yes, okay.
And then getting killed by Wanda. But it's a multiverse. There's so many. So in this, she looks at her mother and goes, "Mom?" And it's clear that this Maria probably doesn't have a daughter at all, because she's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And we hear McCoy calling her binary. And when she stands up, she has a pretty cool version of Carol Danvers' binary outfit from X-Men from the 80s. So in this universe, it's not Carol Danvers who became binary. It looks like it was Maria Rambeau. And binary was basically the next step of Ms. Marvel. And she could fly through the universe and had university powers. But it was stunning. Yeah, university powers. But it was pretty awesome. Very awesome to see Beast. And that's also Kelsey Grammer. It was always a great choice vocally. And if they're going to make him full CG, then that allows him to keep going, even though he's 95 years old. I exaggerate. So.
Yeah.
But no, it was cool. And basically all it is them going like, "Who are you? Where'd you come from?" And she's like, "Where the hell am I?" They don't go into anything in too great a detail. But yes, the reason it's so huge, if you haven't been following, this would be the first canonical appearance, well,
of an X-Man or X-person.
No, I mean, again, Multiverse of Madness.
Yes.
But we just don't, these I'm sure will be our canonical as the ones that will enter our universe and hang out with the Avengers, as opposed to Multiverse of Madness. They all get wiped out by Wanda, and that's a whole other universe where Jim from The Office is the world's most intelligent man and stretchy guy.
Was.
You just had to bring it up. I refuse to believe that Captain Carter is dead, because Haley Atwell is one of the most beautiful people who's ever lived, and seeing her with a shield is awesome. I actually have the Captain Carter action figure. I mean, as a what if, as a cool alternative idea, I love that she got the super soldier serum in that universe. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so this is pretty major, and there were gasps in the theater, and John was like, "Oh!" And I was like, "Yeah!" And then they asked us to leave. But anyway, so we were able to go see it in the middle of the day, and I assumed that there were bigger crowds later. But for us, it was like maybe 30 people.
Yeah.
But that is new, like we were talking about. People are jumping on it, like going, "Proof that Marvel's dead. They don't know what they're doing."
That line that Beast says...
Well, you'll have to remind me, because I don't remember the specifics.
He says, she mentions Rambeau, her mom, her not mom.
Yeah.
Mentions that she's confused, and Beast says, "Well, confusion is the first step towards knowledge," or something like that.
Yes.
And I thought, is that a quote from something? Did they pluck that from something else? Because it sounded...
They may have, but I don't know.
It sounded like a winky quote.
Maybe that's a famous line from a philosopher, or it's something that Professor X may have said.
Yeah,
at some point.
Which he mentions them right after that. I think.
Actually, he does like inform Charles, which also would mean it's not the same universe as Multiverse of Madness because
he's still alive.
Yeah. That was pretty awesome, though. I want to go back and rewatch that. I mean, is it sad that Wanda takes them all out? Yeah, but it's still pretty awesome scene. Just saying.
Oh yeah, but so where do you think they're going with this?
There's a rumor that there'll probably be some sort of multiversal rift, and they've done similar in Marvel Comics when they wrapped up the Ultimate Universe, which was their let's start over with Marvel, but it's in its own universe. So they had different modernized takes on Spider-Man, X-Men, so forth. When they decided after several years, and some good comics and some really bad ones, to wrap up that entire universe, they did something clever. That's where Miles Morales comes from. It's not canonical. Universe 616 is the canonical Marvel Comics universe. So they did a thing where basically like refugees, their universe started being wiped out, and they escaped into the appropriate canonical Marvel universe. So now, not everybody, because they were like, we love Miles, so he's coming, and a few characters, but a lot of them just died. So I assume they might do something like that in the movies, where those people, the X-Men that never existed in the MCU before, they'll just show up fully formed because maybe they escaped their universe's demise. And there will be lots of references to like, wait, so there are no mutants here? And they're like, no, Kamala Khan is one, and there are others and so forth, but they don't know or hate us. That could be interesting.
Okay. So we could have the X gene emerging while at the same time have established characters from this other universe.
Could be.
Yeah.
Now, what would be tricky is because the discrimination, the mutants as being hated as outsiders, how are they going to make that work? Because they will already be outsiders, but they're coming into a world that has superheroes in it. So how are they going to retroactively make people hate and fear them when they're no weirder than the Hulk or whatever? It's like, okay, well, most of them are hotties, and they do things that are cool and save people. Why would we hate and fear mutants?
The only thing I would think there is maybe not people who don't know them, but ones who are born into a family where they're different, which was always, I could still see that being a thing because humans are still horrible.
Well, they will probably have some sort of storyline in which, or they could do a thing where their arrival causes sudden rash or like the explosion of mutation.
Right.
And then therefore the people of the canonical Marvel Earth are like going, my kid should have been born normal and it's their fault. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And apparently the plan for the Fantastic Four is similar, where the Fantastic Four are coming from a universe where they were the only superheroes and then entering the Marvel Cinematic Universe, again, already fully formed. So we won't have to deal with Reed Richards and his crew going into space long after Thanos had already done the snap and all that. They'll just show up.
Those are rumors that are going around?
Those are rumors that are going around. And we should be getting a cast announcement pretty soon. Supposedly, they were ready to announce before the actors strike. And that's like, okay, now it's over. So they should be...
I liked, it was just apparently it wasn't true, but I liked the idea of, oh crap, what's his name? Kylo Ren. Adam.
Why isn't that true? I keep hearing that rumor still.
Is it? Okay.
I mean,
what's his name?
Adam Driver.
Driver. Thank you.
I'm a little mean to him, even though he's a fine actor. He's got the big ears. And that, I mean, come on. I am totally being just nerdy with that. That's why as Kylo Ren, he had the long hair. Literally, they were covering the ears. But I saw the trailer for Ferrari, which is upcoming. The movie he plays the guy who created, Mr. Ferrari. Hi, I'm Mr. Ferrari. And apparently Adam Driver is still doing Italian accents after House of Gucci. He's like, I can't get enough. But in that movie, in that trailer, I was like, it's Adam Driver, but his ears aren't poking out. They have found a way to pin them back or glue them back. Honestly, I was tracking it. And I said that to John. I was like, I think he can play Reed Richards now. And he goes, dude, that's me. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, it is noticeable. He's got very pronounced ears. He's a good actor, though. And I would love him as Reed Richards. I welcome him as Reed Richards if he gets the gig. So,
me too.
Yeah, I know that was important that he hears from me. Yeah, and
that's what they're waiting on.
Yeah. Hey, man, it's all yours. Do him proud. The other rumor is, and there are people already freaking out about this, but the other rumor is that it's going to be almost weighted towards Sue Storm, which I'm sure that's like a reactionary. We've got to give her the spotlight because ladies, and I get it, but I'm like, isn't the whole point of the Fantastic Four that it's an equal, like, 4-way split and they're a family? And not that she would be a bad intro character, because she's, well, actually, you would think Johnny would be the intro character because he's the youngest and he's a teen in the comics and all that. But yeah, I guess I love Sue Storm, but I don't want it to be Sue Storm and her 3 pals. So there are people that are already going, that's woke Hollywood nonsense. And I'm over here going like, can we wait and see it?
Yeah.
It might be everything you've ever wanted from a Fantastic Four movie, which I hope they get right. I know people are much more excited about the X-Men, and I love the X-Men, but I am a nerd for the old stuff. And I'm like, to me, it matters that the first family of Marvel Comics, the comic that started them, well, okay, that re-energized them and created the Marvel Age of Comics. The FF need all the love that they can get.
Yeah.
Did you see that last one, that the Fantastic Four stick thing they did? The most recent one that had.
I've seen all the reviews, people tearing it apart, and that was enough for me.
Jesus,
because I've read about what a mess that film was.
It's a mess. I mean, a brave reimagining, yeah, but it's absolutely nothing you want to watch.
It's not even one movie. Like they had to reshoot like almost
there's
entire second half of the film. Or something.
I can feel bad. Sadly, literally the filmmaker that's Josh Trank, I think is his name. Or Trank.
Yeah.
He's like, that's it. He goes, I'm not sure when I'll direct again, and it's like, I'm sorry, I'm tired of defending it. He's like going, I obviously didn't give people what they want, but also I'm not entirely to blame. A lot of this stuff is, it's like, okay, I get it. But yeah, he took a severe blow because of the people dumped on it. It is almost unwatchable.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This has been fun, but my hopes are high. And again, I did enjoy it. And supposedly, I know you've been waiting for this. Forgive me while I type off to the side. But Madame Web, which is yet another of the Sony going, we've got the Spider-Man characters and we are going to do whatever we want with them. You actually, yes, there she is. You've got a Madame Web ready.
Totally by chance. Yeah, this is.
Wait, is that the first time she appeared? The cover copy seems to indicate.
Hey, Spidey, you think you're the only webhead in town? Meet Madame Web.
Maybe so. Could you look on the inside and get the date on that?
Where do they usually
do the work for me? It's usually in the little type at the bottom of the first
1980.
page. 1980.
November 1980.
That could be first Madame Web.
And there's I was reading the comic at this point. I think the Juggernaut comes into this.
Oh my God, I love that one. That is great. That is one of the best Juggernaut stories. Look at me nerding out.
Is that where he battles them and then he buries them in concrete?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. It is like one of the best Spider-Man thinking on his feet. He literally cannot stop the Juggernaut. The Juggernaut's too strong. And he just allows himself to basically be bait and get hit and whatever, and he's escaping, and Juggernaut's like, I'm coming for you, I'm going to kill you. And basically Spider-Man has been leading him this entire time to a cement pit, this construction site. And basically Juggernaut goes down. He knows that Juggernaut, because the gym, Juggernaut's invulnerable. So it's not like, oh, I've drowned a person. But essentially Juggernaut can't be moved, but he also can't get out of there. It is such a great story.
Do you remember? Because I imagined about, I thought about this for years after that comic stuck with me. That story stuck with me this whole time, clearly, because I remember that part of it. But I was imagining, like, eventually, obviously someday Juggernaut's going to break out of the concrete.
Yeah.
So I was just picturing this scene in the future where the building has been completed and you're in the lobby
that
of
would
the
be
building,
awesome.
and he breaks out and everybody's screaming and running.
That'd be awesome.
Like, Spider-Man. You know,
that makes me curious to track down the next Juggernaut appearance and see if they did that, or if they just like half-assed.
He just shows up somewhere,
and he's like, "Took me a while to get out of that." And it's like, dude, it'd be cooler if you showed it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But I do remember
getting out of the Sarlacc. Like, I
like Madame Web. The thing that makes it so sad is that, have you already seen the Kraven trailer? That's been out for like a couple months for Kraven the Hunter.
Maybe.
Anthony Taylor Johnson, I think is his name, and I like him a lot. He played Quicksilver in Avengers: Age of Ultron when they killed him off, and now he's Kraven the Hunter. And it's just like, what's the point of a Kraven movie if you change his entire character? Because in the comics, Kraven is a big game hunter to the extreme. He's hunted every animal and he's mastered all of that, and he's a killer, and he's like, now I'm going to hunt man. It's a classic. It's basically the most dangerous game, but whatever. And then what better than hunting a super powered man like Spider-Man? So he's a Spider-Man villain from the early days. He's one of the earliest, actually. Russian dude. The movie makes it pretty clear that Kraven, he's Russian, but he's not doing like a big accent. Also, he has animal powers. He has animal senses. Bullshit. And he's a protector of the animals. He goes after poachers. He's an anti-hero type character in this movie. And I'm not putting it on the actor. Obviously, he's just like, give me that paycheck. But it seems well shot. It's just like, what is the point? That's not the character. Ugh. Madame Web is now a young hottie. I mean, look at her there. The thing I always loved about Madame Web is she literally looked like Aunt May.
Yeah.
But like she's paraplegic. She's in this chair, and that's the cool graphic is literally she's telepathic and she's connected. She's not spider powered. She's a telepath, but her motif is all these spider webs. That's how she connects to everybody, and she's got like a spider design, but she's an old lady, and she basically gives instruction and help and that kind of thing. She's not out in the field kicking ass. Oh shit, it's Madame Web. You boys better watch out, because I'm coming. I'll give me a minute. I'm gonna stay right here, but I'm gonna mind blast. There you go. Feel the sting of I need my pills. Oh, I overexerted. So instead, now it's Dakota Johnson. It's young hottie, and the movie's trailer, the first trailer or teaser, is released tomorrow. Actually, I found that out just before logging on. I was like, "What?" Sony is so pathetic. They're like, "We own these characters. We're not going to let Marvel have them back. We're sharing Spider-Man, but we've got Venom. They have all the villains. They could do a Green Goblin movie. Yay. Watch Green Goblin turn into a nice guy."
What's it to do something like with the Joker? Joaquin
that'd
Phoenix's
be
Joker.
great. I will say this, and hopefully you'll back me up on this. No Way Home was great. Willem Dafoe's performance in that movie should have been a fucking Oscar winner.
Good Lord, yeah.
What I love about I've always loved Willem Dafoe, but one of the things I love about some of these people, including Alfred Molina, and that's hard to top because his Doc Ock is amazing. But the whole thing is, Willem Dafoe has never been embarrassed to be Green Goblin. You know, and that's the great. He's like, yeah, I'll wear the stupid helmet. It's not a good design, but I'm going to sell the character, and he does. Yeah. And then he tops it because they give him that divided mentality in that movie. It was so good,
so good. Yeah, yeah. That was. I love the way they handled him. I love the way they handled Doc Ock in that film. The one that kind of fell through the. Obviously, Lizard didn't do much with him.
They didn't do much, but he's a big old CG guy.
Sandman could have been cooler.
Yeah,
they kind of fumbled the ball on that one a little bit, I think, because they just needed him to be a villain again. Yeah, and they just kind of flipped a switch, and now he was like, that didn't make any sense.
I think they probably just got Thomas Hayden Church in there for like in a sound booth for an afternoon.
Yeah,
because he's in there so little. It's just, I'm still angry and I'm all sand.
Yeah, right. Because they did.
That's his famous catchphrase. That,
I'm still angry and I'm all
anytime
sand.
He shows up in comics, you're like, oh, when is he going to say it? I'm still angry and I'm all sand.
Because I love the way that they carry the continuity of those original films over with the demeanor of those characters when we last saw them. You know, because right before he died, Doc Ock had changed his tune. The last time we saw Sandman, he had teamed up with Spider-Man and they were fighting side by side. That was cool. So he shows up, he's like, hey buddy.
The only real shift they did was clearly with Electro, because Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2 was, and I like Jamie Foxx, but I was like, that was a terrible character. It was literally the exact same arc that they gave Jim Carrey's Riddler. They literally just lifted that, where it's like, I'm a nerd who has a obsession with the hero, and I want to be his friend. Oh, he's rejected me because I have outlandish notions of our friendship, so now I'm a villain. It was the exact same. I was like, oh, that's not good. Also, not the character from the comics. Yeah. Does anyone read these? Do you need me to let you know who Electro is? Call me up.
Okay, so we got two more things we got to touch on.
All right, I'm ready.
What are we doing first? We got Loki, and we're going to talk about the Daredevil news.
Well, I think Daredevil news, we can save that for the end, because I want to devote energy to Loki. And the Daredevil news is just something that's speculative. Yeah. And we can just talk about
specifically the thing you put a pin on from last week.
Yes, indeed. I did want to talk about it. And it's not just Daredevil news. It's also the news of their restructuring of how they're doing their television projects.
Yes. Yes.
Meanwhile, they just finished a really good one, the first sequel series they've ever done. And it seems, I keep kind of going, guys, the model isn't the problem. The model is great. It's like, we got 2 seasons of Loki. I don't want a third because it wrapped up so well. Unless you have an amazing story. The problem with American television has always been, unlike the Brits, American television just keeps beating a dead horse because it's like they don't know when to stop. So think of a story, and does it need to be 1 season, 2 seasons? Great. But tell the damn story and don't just leave it open-ended for the further adventures of. I liked She-Hulk. I didn't love it, but I liked it a lot, and I felt satisfied. Do I want to see Tatiana Maslany as She-Hulk show up in Marvel movies now or in the Avengers? Yes.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I want to see more, but I don't want them to just go, okay, let's come up with some wacky ideas for season 2. No, unless it's inspired, don't do it.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about how the Marvels wrapped up. Not the button scene, but the end of the movie that brings in, they're basically opening the door for Young Avengers.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Spoiler alert, at the end of the Marvels, waiting.
That I didn't know. I didn't know nothing about that scene before I went in, and I heard a lot of the spoilers. Yeah.
Me either. And I mean, I knew that they've been aiming towards getting a Young Avengers, whether they'll be called that, or maybe they'll call them the Champions, because in the comics now that group is sort of called the Champions. But the young heroes of the MCU that they've been building up. So at the end of it, Kamala Khan, imitating Nick Fury, very funny, is sitting in Kate Bishop's loft that we last saw in the Hawkeye TV show. And we see Pizza Dog again. Yay! Lucky the Pizza Dog. And I don't know your feelings on Hawkeye, but I loved Hawkeye. I loved that series.
It was good.
And Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop. Chef's kiss. Yeah. I'm not even a chef.
My only problem with that show, we touched on it briefly last week, is that I really didn't like the way they portrayed Kingpin. So which could dovetail into the next subject here.
I liked it okay, mainly because they were leaning into the comic bookiness. Meaning he was throwing people through walls. I'm like, yeah, an acknowledgement of the fact that Kingpin is not superhuman, but he's a powerful dude.
I didn't really mind that so much. It's just that he was almost like a clown.
A little bit. I mean, the fact that they decided that he was in his vacation wear, I'm like, I'm not sure about the Hawaiian shirt and the weird little hat.
It's like the Kingpin that I know from that show would never have worn that shirt.
He was feeling jolly. Anywho, so she shows up and Kamala Khan basically comes out of the shadows and goes, Kate Bishop, you've entered she just says the same stuff as Nick Fury did at the tail end of Iron Man. And I'm thinking of putting a group together. Come on, that's awesome.
Who did she mention? I didn't catch what she said. Did you know that so-and-so had a daughter or a son or something? Like, what?
Scott Lang.
Oh.
So in other words, stature.
Okay.
Cassie, who is Scott Lang's daughter, who we've already seen in Quantumania, she's doing the shrinking and the growing.
She said Ant-Man. Okay. All right.
Oh, yeah. She may have said Ant-Man.
That's what I didn't catch. Yeah.
Yeah. Who she ends up going by stature because I think she mainly just does giant stuff. And she was a member of the Young Avengers. Spoiler alert for the comics. She was in the group for what she got killed. It was sad. I hope they don't do that because I like the character. And
yeah.
But anyway, so they also introduced, I can't remember his character's name. I remember his superhero name, Patriot. But the Isaiah Bradley, the ignored first super soldier serum recipient, the African-American soldier guy that they introduced in Falcon and Winter Soldier, they introduced his grandson, no powers or anything, but they have him like hanging out with his granddad and watching over and like, hey, white people, what are you doing to my, it's like, hey, Bucky, what are you doing here? He goes on to be Patriot. So that's a possibility. And also the two kids, Wanda and Vision's kids, even though they may not exist in our dimension, but maybe in another dimension they pop in. Wiccan
People and speculated that kid Loki from season 1 of Loki would somehow be tied into
maybe
it.
Too, maybe so.
From the void or whatever, wherever he is.
Great tie-in. Let's do this before I've run out of energy and need to eat lunch.
Yeah.
Loki season 2. Great.
What Mark was saying?
It followed right on the heels of the first season, which you kind of want. It was totally centric on the TVA, but basically the sacred timeline is in danger simply because their pruning efforts have gone awry. And as we saw, branches are forming. So new universes, new timelines are spinning off. They can't control it. And basically all of time is in jeopardy. Plus they find out in this season that the TVA was in fact created by Kang, who they never call Kang in the whole thing. He is He Who Remains.
He Remains, or Victor Timely.
Or Victor Timely, who's an early variant of him. So it's all about Loki trying to put things right, Loki becoming more of a hero, and then, man, that ending. And I will say this, everyone except, I would say, I liked her a lot. The actress who played, she just has the number. She's one of the enforcers.
B-15, whatever she is.
Yes. Yeah. She didn't get much in season 2. And that's okay. I mean, she's on Team Loki. Basically, Loki has gotten Mobius on his side. Not Morbius, the living vampire. People get those mixed up all the time.
Yeah.
Mobius is on his side. Now he has Ouroboros or OB, the great Kie Kwan. Man, just awesome. I'm so glad he's back.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad he wasn't a villain, too. A lot of people were theorizing that he was going to turn out to be the real baddie. It was like, no.
Instead, Tara Strong, the voice actress of so many things, who did a great job as Miss Minutes.
Miss Minutes, yeah.
She did some great stuff in season 2. I mean, she's a villain-ish, but being in love with her creator, Victor Time, it's just like, wow.
So creepy. Yeah.
Wow. Creepy, but it worked.
Our supporter, Kate Scott, mentions like, oh, that character was annoying. Yeah, she didn't like that character. She didn't like Miss Minutes? Yeah, I can see why she'd be annoying, but I think she was supposed to be annoying.
No, she was, but also she's essentially like Hal in 2001. Yeah. She's an AI that has grown way too independent and also has some very wrong ideas. So, and she has all power. The idea that they've chosen to make her this cartoon clock is actually kind of brilliant because it offsets she's a serious threat. And that's
she's sick.
But Kate, I love you. It's okay that you hate Miss Minutes. It's okay. So it was very well done. The Sylvie Loki thing still is such a fascinating relationship because they keep they're the side references like, yeah, that's what happens when you fall in love with yourself.
Right.
Because she's another Loki variant and it's so good. There was a little bit in the middle of the series where I was like going, I get where they're going, I think, but it seems a little repetitive. But then you see in the last couple episodes, they just ramp it up. The whole thing of him Groundhog Daying, where it's like, I have to learn things quicker to move things quicker along. It's like, how long would it take me to become a genius at this? I don't know, a couple of centuries. And then I go, a couple of centuries later. And he's able to control his time slipping, so he's able to do all this. And continues with each step to become a real hero. And that, I mean, some people are anti that. Loki is a great villain in Marvel Comics. But there are, of course, infinite Lokis. This Loki has gone the hero route. And then at the end, has to embrace, well, I'm the guy who does the difficult stuff. So he goes in and he is physically grabbing timelines to weave together. And the timelines have formed Yggdrasil, the world tree, tying it back into Norse mythology. Famously, Loki himself was imprisoned in the roots of Yggdrasil. And I'm like, God damn it, that's perfect. What a perfect ending. And he has sacrificed himself. He goes, this is who I'm meant to be. Oh, man.
The one thing,
the God of stories is what they're calling him now.
Yeah, well, they didn't really say that in the.
They didn't say it in the show, but that's like the official synopses that
is it
they're putting out. They're calling him now the God of stories.
So the one thing, and I loved it. I mean, I love the whole.
Yeah, both I enjoyed it. Even I was like, okay.
I think that people like you and me who know how to. I think I did recognize, okay, that's some kind of Asgardian thing. Yeah, probably. I didn't know what it was. A lot of people have no idea. They may recognize the symbol, but they don't know. And so, because in Thor, a couple times in Thor movies, Yggdrasil is mentioned and shown. And
Thor actually draws it in the first Thor movie. Yeah, right. He's like going, well, these are the 9 realms according to it, but these are like branches in space time, and they form this kind of tree. We call it. Yeah, it's all.
But we didn't have that set up in this show. So unless you remember that, you're lost.
There's also the artwork inside the TVA, the panels that show the timekeepers, those panels where they've got the tree in the middle of it. I'm like, see, damn.
The only, and I guess maybe they had a lot to get to in this show, but they could have maybe had a scene where Loki is maybe when he first looks at the loom and he goes, "Oh, looks like Yggdrasil."
Oh, sure, they could have done that,
and he could explain to Mobius, oh, the tree of life, the world tree. Oh yeah.
Anyway. By the way, if it hasn't been said, I said this. Did I say this on this podcast or on the one I do with John, where I said I welcome the renaissance of Owen Wilson because everything I've seen him in, including that Haunted Mansion movie, which I watched on streaming just to watch it, and I'm like, this was okay. It's not terrible, but the cast is amazing. And Owen Wilson steals every scene he's in.
He's so good.
He's so good.
And he's. I mentioned this when we were talking about the first season, that it's the Wes Anderson, right? There's a bunch of movies he's been in.
Yeah.
That Wes Anderson knew how to push him or direct him in this direction, that Owen Wilson has this kind of existential weight that he's so good at just conveying that just in his face. He just sits there and stares. And he's
if you watch Bottle Rocket, which was the first Wes Anderson movie, it's just Wes Anderson with his two buddies, the Wilson brothers. And he cast them perfectly in that movie because he has Luke being the, well, you know, kind of dreamy, romantic guy, as in this, the stock romantic lead, even though he's not, you know, like a soap opera character, but that is what Luke fits. And then he has Owen being like kind of nuts and kind of exactly what you said, like sort of almost a visionary, like, man, don't you get it? And you're like going, he just knew the personalities of those guys is like, you'll be him, you'll be him. And they've continued to be that. They've both continued to basically embody what they are in everybody's projects, not just Wes Anderson's.
Yeah. He was, and God, Owen was so good in this, and that final scene. I wasn't quite prepared for that when and I knew they were going to send him back to his real life. Somehow, what I didn't really put two and two together is like, oh, he can't actually go back to his.
No, he can't.
He can just look. He can just observe it from afar, and I was like, oh, this is so sad.
Yeah, but I mean,
how else could have ended? Yeah,
still he has agency. Now, true that I guess he'll go and make a life for himself, just like Sylvie tried, you know, like I'll work at McDonald's. That is the only thing in the entire series that pissed me off was product placement. McDonald's was a huge one, but there were other things. And I'm like going, guys, are you guys hurting? Yeah. Really? Disney? You guys hurting? Yeah. I mean, it's a clever idea that for her, freedom is literally having a nothing job in Oklahoma on a variant Earth.
True. But had it been in the comics, it would have been some made up, burger time.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And actually, I don't think Marvel, oh boy, write to me in the comments if you know if Marvel has a running gag, because DC does. Like a stock in DC,
fictional burger chain.
Yes, in DC, it's Big Belly Burger. And that's been going on since the 80s. Yeah. So, and they include that, by the way, in Blue Beetle.
Oh, they do? Good.
Yeah, Big Belly Burger. But so I'm just sitting there going like, oh, man, it just seems a little commercially. But it also made me nostalgic for like, oh, yeah, that's what McDonald's used to look like.
That's true. I didn't even think about that when I was watching it, but you're right. I was just really stunned at how well they pulled that ending off, because one of the things I was kind of iffy about in the first season was Loki, when Loki uses his magic powers, and it was kind of clever that, initially in the TVA, he's not able to use them because they've got some kind of dampener effect. That was a nice literary device to kind of get rid of that problem. Yeah. But then when he's in any of the other realms, he can use any of his magic powers. And then there's that one planet that's falling apart because the moon is crashing into it.
Yeah, man, that was pretty intense.
And then he just flips his hair at this building and makes it, it's falling on him, and he flips his hair at it and it stands back up again. And I was like, wait a minute. Have we ever seen him do something that powerful before? That powerful. So, but at the end of this season, we see him basically taking the entirety of the multiverse in his hands.
I always love the cosmic stuff where you're like, where are they? If they're outside of time, right. Where are they? Yeah. But no, literally him just walking into the place in between and then being able to physically, I mean, they did make the whole idea of these timelines so literal that they're literally like vines and stuff. But yes, that is godly though, and you want it. It's like that's hardcore.
And it's just conveyed so well, and it's like it just makes no sense, but I love it. I love
it on a comic book level. Plus, talk about an arc. I will now say that Loki, next to Tony Stark, these in the MCU are the characters that have the best arcs. Because don't get me wrong, I loved every minute of Steve Rogers being Captain America, but Steve didn't have an arc. Not really. I didn't really want him to, because you want him to always be exactly that. He's the Rock. Yeah. Thor has had an arc, but it's been an arc towards wacky. Like the scene in Love and Thunder where it's like him and Jane in their relationship, and it's like dumb sitcom jokes about I thought you were going to make breakfast this morning. I didn't have time to make breakfast. And you're like, wow, Thor. Come on. But anyway, so all that's fine, but Loki has this amazing arc, and the fact that you can say what you want about Joss Whedon as a horrible monster man, but he did create Avengers. He did somehow make that movie work. And thanks to him, Loki had that line of dialogue with, I am Loki of Asgard, and I am burdened with great purpose. Is that
glorious purpose? Glorious
purpose. And you go, wow. You get to the end of this series, and it's almost like they had planned it. Like, yes, he did. Yeah. He is. And every now and then they're like, you you did terrible things, and not just in the MCU. You go back into mythology, you're like, yeah, you're a real asshole, Loki. But he's like, yeah, but now he has found his glorious purpose and ends up dying a hero and sitting on a throne in his own way. I'm like, yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
It was good stuff.
I didn't catch this the first time I saw it, but I saw a few seconds of that final scene, of him becoming the tree.
God of story.
And the cape that forms around him, if you look at it, it's actually comprised of the timelines. The timelines are kind of stretching out of his cloak.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, wow.
He is now the focal point.
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, he's also a Deus Ex Machina. In other words, if they want the Fantastic Four in the MCU or X-Men, it could literally all just be Loki going, and you guys go here. I mean, they probably won't do that because that would be a little much, but he is kind of in control, though not in a... I guess they'll have to bring him back for Kang Dynasty, right? When they do the Avengers thing, that the next Avengers movie down the line, oh no, the Secret Wars first, and then Kang Dynasty. Kang Dynasty is going to be all Kang-centric, and I assume since it's going to be timeline heavy, we might see Loki return.
I could see that maybe coming into it, maybe towards the very end. I've heard several other people say this, and I agree with them. I think if they do only one more thing with this version of Loki, I would love it to be that he gets to talk to Thor one more time. Or
would love it.
Thor gets to see what he's done, and like, brother.
Well, this is kind of mean. I am not on the jump on Taika Waititi train. That's now become popular too, where people are like going, he ruined now. Love and Thunder, people apparently really hated, and I liked a lot of it. Again, there were parts I didn't like, and his take is maybe it's just too wacky. I like him as a director. I like him as an actor. I like that man. But someone on Twitter today, apparently someone asked Tom Hiddleston in an interview, like, well, Loki's over, but if they do a Thor 5, what do you think? And Hiddleston was something like, it would be nice for the brothers to get back together. And someone is like, see, as soon as Taika Waititi officially bowed out of, because he did come out and say, no, I won't be doing a Thor 5. If they do one, it won't be with me. And they're like going, Tom Hiddleston's been sitting on that till they announced that. Now he's like dropping a hint. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would welcome a Thor 5 to bring a little bit more balance, a little bit more weight back to the mythological Marvel universe.
Yes.
Just like I'm looking forward to whatever we get with Kang or any of the big threats. If they can somehow make the broad universe of Marvel not just a cartoon, I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
I'm tired of being the defender of Eternals, but I loved Eternals. And that was one that was like going, no, we're taking that cosmic shit deadly serious. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And I want a sequel. I got to see what happens, man.
Yeah, I know.
I want to see what happens next. And plus, they launched or hinted at Black Knight and Blade at the end of that one. So I'm very excited.
There's a couple things that struck me at the end of the show.
Oh, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. At the end of Loki.
You can't see the bruise at all.
Well, there's a couple things that reminded me of, obviously the Groundhog Day stuff was pretty obvious.
Yes.
But there was also, it's kind of cool that the green. A lot of people pointed this out that Loki's green magic, kind of ties in with the time stone.
Yeah,
and for that matter, in the first Doctor Strange movie, the time loop that he tricks, that's how he defeats Dormammu, is by trapping them in a time loop. So at the end, where Loki is in his own self-perpetuated time loop by trying to figure stuff out, that's kind of reminded me of the end of Doctor Strange. But also, there were several things about the last couple of episodes, and a lot of Loki kind of leans into this a little bit, like Russell Davies era Doctor Who.
Very much so. It has the same kind of feel.
Well, not just Russell Davies, but also the other showrunner,
Stephen Moffat.
Moffat, yeah. Russell Davies, I think, especially was big into the fairy tale kind of aspect of Doctor Who. Yes. And this one literally goes into folklore at the end.
That's suiting. It's like
I loved it. Yeah.
What works with the MCU is when whoever's in charge of directing or writing a new project, you can tell when they get what the character deserves or needs, because it's true even in comics. Like, this is a DC example. I love Grant Morrison. He's got the crazy big ideas, but I think is it in Final Crisis, one of them, where it's like, oh, Batman ends up sitting in Metron, the new god's chair, and becomes the god of knowledge, like very briefly. And I'm like, yeah, but I always liked when I'd read Justice League comics and they were fighting in space, and Batman is the one guy who has like a bubble helmet on because he can't survive out there. But it was always like weird too. It's like he doesn't really belong out there, but it's still kind of cool.
You guys are good without me, right?
Like if Captain America in MCU, if Steve Rogers had suddenly, like Odin had said, "You deserve a place in Valhalla, brave warrior," and he's like, "Great." Like, what the? They didn't. They give Steve Rogers the perfect Steve Rogers ending. It's like, that works. I just want them to always be smart per character because they all have their different thing. Tony Stark goes out in a very Tony Stark way. I mean, it is still knowledge and intelligence and cleverness over massive powers and self-sacrifice, which is something he had learned throughout his entire arc. It's like, I'm still making up for the mistakes of my father. I'm a better man than he is. All that stuff is all there. And you're like, yeah, that's good forethought and good through line writing. Multiple writers, but Feige probably sitting on top of it going like, that's not something that fits Tony. Or, I'm sure that they have arguments where they're like going, yeah, that's a great idea, but I just don't think that T'Challa would do this. It's like, right. So, and T'Challa had the best, sadly, but he had the best Wakandan wrap up as well. It's like, yeah, we get more of their culture. This is perfect. And the passing of the mantle. Love it. Anyway, so Loki season 2, great. And I want Jonathan Majors to be judged fairly, and that to work out. And if it's okay for him to continue as Kang, I would like him to, because he's great. If it is not, and he needs to answer for crimes, then recast. Just recast.
Because they've really left it open now, especially into this, that they could totally recast him now at this point.
Well, sure.
Because the way the slate has kind of been wiped clean, essentially. And I like that one little mention. They say, we had one occurrence of him, in this 616 adjacent realm. Yeah, they took care of it, and you can see people pointed out that the thing to hold up, if you zoom in on it, you can see that it's Kang from Quantumania.
Quantumania, yeah, I figured that's what they were getting at. And 616 adjacent is interesting.
Yeah.
I guess that would be the quantum realm within 616 or whatever. Well, I liked Quantumania.
I did too.
I liked it, and again, Jonathan Majors as Kang is great. Yeah. Doesn't allow him to be a bad person. But we'll find out.
So Daredevil, showrunners.
Yeah.
Shakeups at Marvel.
Man, they literally scrapped. They had even, I think, started filming. And
from what I heard, they filmed almost half the entire season.
Wow.
Already. And they threw all of it out. At least they threw the scripts out.
Yeah. What was it the take was too goofy? What was it?
I don't know. I don't know if we have an official report. It's just that they recognized that it wasn't working and they had to tear it down and start over again. Why exactly? I don't know if we know.
D'Onofrio's quote, because he tweeted and he basically said, look, I understand everybody's frustration. He goes, but guys, this is making it better. And if he's like going, no, this is going to be much better, then I'm fully on board.
Yeah.
And I'm fully on board with if they are, I don't necessarily need the Netflix continuity entirely. I don't necessarily need it. I loved Daredevil on Netflix. It was the best of their shows.
Yes.
I liked Luke Cage
season
quite
1
a bit.
And season 3, I thought.
Yeah. And
Luke Cage.
I liked season 1 of Jessica Jones very, very much.
Yes.
Season 2, not season 2 for everybody, including Luke Cage.
Yeah, it's funny.
Iron Fist season 2 was better than Iron Fist season 1. And unfortunately, the Defenders didn't work. And I blame myself. Anyway, but no, I'm okay with them scrapping and starting over to make something better. But them announcing, like, as if they were like, uh-oh, are we doing something wrong? They seem unsure. This whole stuff about, we're going to change our model now. And instead of doing multiple short series with characters that you've never heard of, or that you need to have watched everything to understand, we're now going to do long extended series like traditional American TV. And I'm like, no, don't. Because I love the grab bag. We're getting an Echo series. I barely know Echo from the comics because she kind of showed up in the 90s era when I was like, ugh, with a lot of Marvel and DC. It was not my favorite thing. But it looks great. I'll watch it. Werewolf by Night got a 2-hour movie that was awesome.
Yeah. Now they're putting it out in color. I haven't watched that yet.
I haven't watched the color version just because I don't need it, but
yeah,
I do want to see how green my boy Man-Thing is.
I think one of the rumors I'd heard about the Daredevil series that got scrapped, or the scripts that got scrapped, is that apparently, this could be just a rumor, but Foggy Nelson had been killed off screen or something like that.
Oh, dude.
It was just
is that just because they didn't want to pay that actor to come back in?
No, it just sounds to me like the reason because that is one thing I think we know, is that the scripts they're throwing out the entire storyline from what I understand. So that tells me that they must have put whoever was a story runner, or that's the problem. This is the thing they've now established, right? They're going to have showrunners for these shows now, before we hadn't. Clearly, some of these shows really, like Loki and WandaVision, really benefited from the fact that I guess not technically a showrunner by title, but they did kind of have a central writer who was who was guiding the whole thing.
Yeah.
Michael Waldron, I think, was the guy who did Loki. So,
yes.
I forget the guy who did WandaVision, but you need that in these shows.
You do.
You need some kind of central visionary who's keeping the eye on the ball. And you
still need Feige to sit on top of it.
Yes,
I don't think the man is infallible, and he's made questionable decisions all along the way. But that said, a unifying idea is good. I think, and this is also a rumor, behind the scenes rumor, is that some of the shakiness of like the last couple of years is Feige being stretched and pulled over, and now he said, "Yeah, my Star Wars project is dead." I think he was probably like, you guys are good, right? I'm going to go start developing the Star Wars thing. And then they're like, we're in trouble. Come back. And Disney goes, yeah, you're not doing the Star Wars thing. He's like, okay, I'll go back to Marvel.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the worst, oh, I'm sorry. You have to go back to running the MCU. Oh, but basically this is us guessing at what might be coming down the pike and whether it's a good or bad thing. I'm kind of the it wasn't broke, don't fix it mentality, but I will be open-minded if we end up with like 10 seasons of Daredevil and he's 65 by the end of it, going like, can I just throw the billy club at the guy who's running?
Yeah. as I was saying, we were starting to talk about last time. I'm hopeful that this is a good sign because, like I said, I didn't really like the way Kingpin was introduced in Hawkeye.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that this is them kind of going, okay, look.
Well, dude, you saw him in the Echo trailer, and that's in the same universe.
Yeah.
And in the Echo trailer,
it looks
he is destroying people with his massive ham-sized fists.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
Right.
Also, him in a white suit
being different. I just don't want him to be betrayed as a buffoon, which is what happened. Yeah. And that's what I didn't like.
I didn't really feel he was a buffoon. I didn't.
Maybe it's his taste.
The fashion was an odd choice. Other than that, I had no problem.
So I'm hoping that that's what's going on. That they're fixing something that was a mess. I hope that's what happened.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll find out maybe. So what else? Is that it?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm ready to eat some spaghetti.
Okay, good.
Today's spaghetti day. All the kids are lining up outside. Is it spaghetti day, Mr. Jones? It sure is. And meanwhile, their parents are like, stay away from that man.
Yeah.
I literally heard him talking about comic book characters for like 2 hours. Stay away from him. I'm glad you saw the Marvels. That's a recommend from both of us. Yeah. It's not going to change your world, but it's a fun flick. And those 3 actresses, I could watch them all day. I have to admit, when they did the cliched girl power, let's dance around thing, I didn't mind it. Normally that's something so cloying and like on the nose. You're like, oh boy, what are they going to start singing into their hairbrushes now? Lip syncing along to Girls Just Want to Have Fun. I enjoyed it. I thought it was delightful.
Well, that was one of the fun things about the movie is that when there were silly things going on, the characters were reacting to, this is pretty fucked up, you know, or this is crazy, you know. So it was. I
will say, Iman Vellani, they got lucky with her, man.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
She's Kamala Khan. She just walked off the comic page, and all of her reactions, where it was either terror or being nerdy, just sold. Like the whole thing in the very beginning in the astronaut suit, where you would just be freaking out because you're suddenly in space. And she's drifting, and then she's like, "Oh my God, Nick Fury! You're him!"
Yeah,
love it.
His reaction too.
Yeah. He's just like, "I don't know you." Anyway, so go see it, and next week we'll talk about something else.
We will.
I don't know what yet. It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Bye everybody. Continue to be prodigious and sappy.
Yes. As will we. Thank you. So bad.